Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, it's our annual Business Lessons from the Movies Podtacular edition, and we'll be joined by the founders of the Footcandle Film Society, Jackson and Chris Frye. We'll give you some movie ideas to make it through the holidays with a minimum of awkward conversation with your in-laws. We'll also share some small businesses that you should be checking out in our Small Business of the Month feature. My name is Jeff Neuville. I'm your co-host. I'm the director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Executive Dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College. Did I get that right, Gary?
God bless you. You did.
All right.
I'm so impressed.
Well, it's always
it took a year.
Fluid and organic, and don't count that I'll get it right next month.
I
But
understand.
Anyway, welcome. You doing okay?
Doing okay is a good word.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. That's great.
Have you done your Christmas shopping?
I've done some for the children.
Some for the children, okay.
And the grandchildren.
Let's not forget about the children.
No, the children are important.
Okay.
That's what they tell me.
That's right. Well, we also have our friends and colleagues, Chris Frye and Alan Jackson. Chris, Alan, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. We always look forward to doing this every year, so I'm excited to be here.
Appreciate the invitation to come back and join you guys. Yeah, happy
We're
holidays.
excited to have
Thank
you with us.
It's always a pleasure to have you guys, and it's a pleasure to see you throughout the year. And the Footcandle Film Society here in Hickory, North Carolina, Catawba County, brings in a movie each month that often is not going to make it to our local multiplex, and
Very true.
Usually a little bit interesting and not always out of the ordinary, but a little bit maybe more critically acclaimed. And we're always we're appreciative of being part of the Film Society and the work that you guys do with that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. No, we've been doing it for how long now, Chris? How long's the Film Society been running?
2008 was when we officially
So that's
started.
14 years?
believe
Did I do my math right?
Yep.
14 years, and then we're getting ready to go into our 9th film festival year coming up this coming fall. So
That's right. We host a film festival here. I say we, the Footcandle Film Society, hosts a film festival here over, I think, 4 days. Maybe it's 5 days now. I don't know. You guys keep expanding.
It's going to be 7 this year.
Okay, It's going to be a whole week.
That's what success looks like.
Yeah, just take off the whole week and come join it with us in September. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'll take off a whole week, but I will be joining and always.
Jeff, you don't have to say that.
Well,
you can go.
I do go. I do. They've actually seen me there.
Yeah, you
I
got
know.
permission.
I'm just saying you're thinking about you're going to be out of work for a week.
Probably not. You never know. Anyway, our main topic today, business lessons from the movies, and our premise, as it has been for the last several years, is that we all love the holiday season. We love spending time with our family and our friends. We love giving gifts. We love getting gifts. But there will probably come a time when we might need some downtime, when we might want to put something, whether it be Netflix or some on-demand service or whatnot, on and not have to talk as much, just to relax with the family. So our job is to give you some ideas of movies, documentaries, whatever, some things to watch. Could be classics, could be obscure. And our job is to try to find a business lesson in these movies. So that's the challenge that we face today. And with that said, we've all picked a couple. We have not discussed them with one another. We keep our fingers crossed that we don't have any overlap. And Chris, Alan, which of you would like to go first?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, right off the bat, I'm going to bend the rules just a little bit. I think the definition of a film or movie these days is a little bit broader. I mean, there's a lot of forms of entertainment out there that may not fit into the normal movie format of you sit down for an hour and a half, 2 hours and watch it at one time. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit with my first choice in that this is not technically a movie. It is technically a very, very short limited series. But I tend to watch these things in one batch. And if you watch all 4 episodes of this, it is 2.5 hours. It's a long movie.
It's a movie.
Is that okay? Am I
Absolutely.
allowed to give this pick? Okay.
Well, I think it's too late to stop you now.
Well,
sir.
I mean, I've got backups, but this is the one I really wanted to key in on because this is relatively new. This is like really within the last 2 months, I think, showing up on Netflix. The name of it is Pepsi, Where's My Jet? Okay.
Pepsi, where's my jet?
Yeah, with a question mark at the end. Pepsi, comma, Where's My Jet? All right. So I'm taking it by you guys scribbling the name down that you're not familiar with this series. And that's exciting because now I get to tell you the story about this and what the lessons are you get from this series.
Okay.
Do you guys recall back in the 1990s that Pepsi had a big promotional campaign, their Pepsi Points? The idea, you buy Pepsi, you get these little points on it. You build up these points, and they have a catalog of all these things you can buy with these Pepsi points. They made a commercial where it was showing that a kid was getting sunglasses that he got with his Pepsi points, and he's got a backpack or something like that. And then he walks out of his front yard, and a Harrier jet lands. And along the commercial, it's saying like sunglasses, 20 points, backpack, 50 points, whatever. The Harrier jet lands, and it says Harrier jet, 7 million points. He hops in the Harrier jet and flies off to school. Okay, haha, funny, it's a joke commercial. However, in 1996, a 21-year-old business student named John Leonard looked at that commercial and said, you know what? I want that Harrier jet. And nowhere in the commercial did it say that this was a joke. And it did not say that there was any stipulation why I could not raise 7 million points and get a Harrier jet. So this little this documentary series, which, 4 episodes worth, is basically showing you how he went about going against Pepsi. He basically went and raised enough money with other investors to buy enough products and things to be able to get the 7 million points. But Pepsi refused to honor it, saying that the commercial was made in a joke. So the whole series is basically they're back and forth on, what's legitimate, what's right for the businesses
False
to do on either side.
advertising.
False advertising, what the marketers should have done or shouldn't have done with it. And it's back and forth. There's lawsuits. There's a whole lot of things. They bring in Cindy Crawford. She's doing parts of the interviews for the show because she was like the big Pepsi spokesperson at the time. You hear interviews with some of the actual Pepsi executives at the time. And then John Leonard himself, the young guy who went after this, he's kind of the main character we follow. It's really fascinating because we all lived through it. We can when they showed the commercial on the show, I recognized that I remember this. But what's really fun about it is, to me, those lessons that you do pull away from it. I mean, you look at this and Pepsi made some bad moves in this whole situation that probably could have fixed this and made it a smarter move for them to do. First off, they didn't really trust their marketing professionals. Okay. Supposedly the story is, and I can't remember if this was actually in the show or if I read about it afterwards, but their marketing team that was helping put together the campaign for these points, when this whole idea of the Harrier jet came in, their initial pitch was, we need to make it 700 million points. We need an outrageous number to be on the screen that nobody could even possibly reach. The Pepsi executive said, we don't like the way that looked. And they eventually whittled it down to 7 million points because they thought that looked better on screen, even though the marketing professional said, I don't know about that, but it's fine if that's what you want to do. And of course, that's what led Mr. Leonard to saying, 7 million points. I actually did the calculations on this. I can actually pull that off. 700 million probably would not have been able to do. But anyway, it's just a little bit of, they didn't really listen to their marketing professionals. They didn't listen to people giving them advice on what would present better for the public. Obviously, the idea of doing what you say, the company did not disclaim that was a joke, did not do anything to have a disclaimer on it at all. So should they have got the guy a Harrier jet? You have to watch the show to see how it ends up. But should they have done it from day one? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Was it a worthwhile investment for them to buy a Harrier jet for this guy just for the court of public opinion to look better? Luckily for Pepsi, this all didn't transpire when social media was around. Because, if it had happened today, they would get raked over the coals and they would be ponying up a $32 million Harrier jet pretty quickly just to deal with it. So anyway, I think it's some interesting lessons about honesty in your advertising and your marketing, thinking about the court of public opinion. How are people going to read this and see this and follow this? And what do you do when things go south?
I was gonna say the reaction
that's right.
is key. It makes me think of the McDonald's hot coffee.
Exactly. Same idea. Pepsi did not handle this situation well. They tried to give Mr. Leonard some coupons for Pepsi products.
You would think that maybe they would have offered a date with Cindy Crawford or something like that.
Yeah, but basically it was kind of insulting. And then they went around and sued him, countersued him. So in other words, that's not really the look you want your business to have when there's
Even if
somebody.
you win, you lose.
Yeah, exactly. So it's thinking about that court of public opinion. How do you kind of manage those expectations? Doing what you say you're going to do, even if it hurts as a business, but it's ultimately going to pay off better for your presence and how people see you as a company and all that. So obviously, I don't think we're all going to have $32 million mistakes to make in our businesses for the most part. Pepsi's a huge, obviously multinational corporation, but it's amazing to me when I see a company that big still take some real missteps on how to handle relationships with their customers. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's Pepsi. Where's my jet?
And now, did this fellow have like a warehouse full of Pepsi when the smoke cleared?
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you how it ended because again, that was part of the reason for me wanting to watch it. It's like, I'm now familiar with the situation. I want to see how John Leonard ends up at the end. Is he flying around in a Harrier jet? Does he have one in a hangar, or is he just surrounded by Pepsi? I don't know.
And you know, the way you, I don't remember the commercial. Okay. I suspect if I see it, watch the show, which I'm interested in doing now, maybe I'll remember it a little. Yeah. But Pepsi couldn't make the play. So well, this was for a ride on a Harrier jet. We're not actually giving you said Harrier jet.
That would have been interesting. I wonder if there's probably some rationale for that. I think it's just the fact that the Pepsi product catalog were all merchandise you could buy. So when they show a jet in that same framework. Yeah. Now, Pepsi did try to make the argument of saying, well, the jet was never in the printed catalog that we had at all the stores. Okay. That's our argument of saying why it's obviously not legit. But how hard would it have been just a simple little disclaimer at the bottom of the commercial saying, not an actual prize? You know, that's it.
It's like these commercials, actor.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is an actor, not a real person.
The soda wars have gone on for so long. I wonder, has anyone ever done a movie on New Coke and that strategic decision? That
whole debacle there. That's interesting.
So I was always a Coke person as opposed to Pepsi, but that was certainly a business.
Was devastating to me because I'm a Coke person.
That was quite the business decision that didn't appear to be researched properly. No. That would make for an interesting documentary or movie or something.
I agree. Completely agree. And this kind of goes in line with, I think they kind of relate a little bit. If you remember, there was even a documentary about the McDonald's Monopoly game. I think it was called McMillions, where that was like turned out to be a big controversy where the whole Monopoly game that was played at McDonald's for many years turned out there were like prizes not being distributed correctly or something. So there was a little bit of a docuseries about that as well, and kind of in the same vein. So my recommendation is sit down and watch all 4 episodes back to back. Is a 2.5 hour movie. Therefore, it counts as a movie I can recommend on our movie podcast.
I think that is fine. That is fine. Well, let's throw it to Chris. Chris, what are you going to start us with?
Okay, so like Alan, I'm kind of skirting the rules a little bit, but I'm recommending a documentary. I try to always split this up with one documentary and one narrative. This year, I'm actually going to do 2 documentaries, but both are really, really, really good. This one is on Disney Plus, so if you have that service, it's easily accessible to you. And like Alan's recommendation, bending the whole movie thing, it is 360 minutes. So it's like 5 or 6 episodes. But what it is, it's called Light and Magic. And it is a documentary that follows the formation of Industrial Light and Magic, which you may have heard of this small little company that George Lucas started. George Lucas, him being of Star Wars. But it reminded me of kind of, you hear stories of the early days of Apple forming with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and kind of as in a garage type thing. That's how Light and Magic started. And George Lucas threw together a bunch of basically nerds who liked, looking at comic books and had like little figures and all that stuff. And what they achieved was amazing. And they also had to do so many innovations to get things working right. 2 two different things I'll share. Just quick little stories that'll give you some insight. George Lucas was off shooting Star Wars, but he was doing all the, acting stuff. These guys were supposed to be doing the effects. They had like a slip and slide out in the parking lot. They were having pizza and beer parties every day. He comes back and he's like, what have you guys been doing? He hasn't been there with the employees kind of watching what was going on, but they managed to put together the special effect of when the escape pod leaves the Star Destroyer at the beginning of the movie. And after he saw that, he's like, okay, but you need to be doing more of this. Because basically they had done one effect shot when they were supposed to had been doing a lot more, like basically completed the effects for the movie. So that was one thing. The other thing that was really interesting, you talk about innovation, small business and everything. Industrial Light and Magic was responsible for doing the effects for Jurassic Park. They started doing them because of the background, all practically, which means you basically have little puppets doing stop motion stuff. They'd done that for Empire Strikes Back. They'd done a lot of stop motion work in that. They were doing the stop motion work for Jurassic Park, but two of the employees were like, you know what? I think we can do this all on the computer. And so on their own time, at night and stuff, they worked stuff up. And then when Steven Spielberg came around, they're like, hey, we just want to, and they actually, I think he came around just to say hello, but they had it running in the background in their office. And he was like, what's that? And at that point, it was like, okay, yeah, we've got it. And he's like, no, this is what I want. So it was just really interesting to see people take their ideas and you put the right people in the right place together who have share the same vision. And it was amazing the stuff they came up with. That doesn't seem like it would work, but it did work. And then, of course, all these other companies started copying the way they were trying to do things. So it is a little long, 360 minutes, it's a couple of episodes, but it's also fun because they're talking about effects for Jurassic Park, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, all these movies, you're like, oh, yeah. And they
That'd
did
be cool to see.
The big ones.
Yeah, the big ones. Yeah, absolutely. So it's just really cool to see the behind the scenes all in one place of these people doing the effects. So Light and Magic, it's on Disney+. It's also directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who directed my favorite Star Wars movie, which is Empire Strikes Back. So there's that. And he was given like unprecedented access to like all this footage these people had shot over the years of them doing behind the scenes. So it's if you like any of those movies and maybe you're not really into documentaries, watching this, you'll learn a little bit about how to run a business, but also just see a lot of really cool things about the movies.
They show how like those faces melted in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They show you that one as well, and how they came up with that idea and everything.
Oh, cool. All right. Very good. Very good.
Excellent.
Gary, what are you going to talk to us about?
Really straightforward. And of course, it ties into one of my themes, Elvis.
Oh,
See,
Gary, no, that was so
is a
good.
good one.
I
That
didn't
is
even
a
think
good
about
one.
that. I was
I
trying
didn't
to think
either.
of a new movie in the last few months. That's perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's of course, I
great.
love everything. I've done Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man.
Yeah.
That's how I learned
Keeping
about
in the
all
theme.
these stars.
Yeah.
And see how successful they are, but how they're taken advantage of from business, or their success is taking them down bad roads. And of course, Elvis is a classic, a
Absolutely.
superstar. Of course, I was able to watch it many times because my wife's in love with Elvis. So
Okay.
she was okay. And then she said, "This is great for your podcast."
Perfect.
Because, I
It
mean,
really is.
what happened to them from a financial standpoint.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Muller.
Yes, there you go.
So that was the whole situation where Colonel Tom Parker, kind of
He took him.
took some advantages, and according to the movie anyway, and that relationship. Yeah, it was a fascinating relationship between a artist and someone just focused on the business,
Exactly.
like just treating it like a commodity, and like
And he
how do I
had his
market
problems,
this?
and so Colonel Parker took advantage of all the success because Elvis is just trying to create music and be an entertainer. And of course, there's some really good things about Elvis that I didn't know, of course.
I really enjoyed that film. I thought
did
it was
too.
really
I mean,
good,
we
very
did watch it
creative,
a
very
lot of
different.
times.
But I did not know anything about the Colonel Tom Parker relationship.
I'd heard
with
some
Elvis.
things, but
Yeah.
I didn't know, so it was very interesting.
I'm glad that they kind of focused a lot on that because
Yeah.
that was really kind of intriguing. So yeah, that's a good one.
Likewise, I learned a lot. I knew who Elvis was, and I'd heard that, he was taken advantage of. But then just something simple that boggled my mind, and I'd never thought about it before. they made it, Colonel Tom Parker made it so that Elvis was never able to tour outside
the United
US.
States.
And I was like, do what? And like that had never dawned on me. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, you think about all these world traveling musicians, and that's how they make their money is they go on tour.
And he wanted
they
to
go
go
to other countries, and they make millions. I mean, just tons of money. I'm like, oh, wow. So that never
and
dawned
the
on
control
me.
he had over
Yeah.
him. And of course, then he, when he tries to get out, he being Elvis, he can't because he's just let him take over his financial world, and he had nothing.
Sure.
And of course, his dad, who theoretically was in charge of the financial side, knew nothing.
Yeah.
So they could take it. I mean, Colonel Parker did exactly what he was trying to do. He had people that didn't know. Elvis didn't care. He was just trying to do what he did best. And
He was treated as the cash cow. We're just going to ride this one until it
Yeah.
drops,
Yeah.
and eventually it does.
it does, exactly. And
Well, you've brought up other films in years past about the musicians and kind of the business side of their careers, and I'm sure there were musicians and artists before Elvis that probably had some mismanagement or whatever. But Elvis seems to be kind of the original one that we all hear about. That is the perfect example of such a talented artist that gave control away to other people that then controlled his path. And it's amazing how many other artists still kind of fall in that same trap.
in, exactly.
Even after seeing and hearing the story of Elvis, they still do it, and that just it's crazy.
Well, it happens, I'm sure, with athletes.
Oh yeah, athletes,
Movie stars,
celebrities, all this.
They,
Yeah.
they don't know the business side.
Right.
I mean, most people don't know the business side, and so it'd be so easy to get.
So really, the lesson is put trust in the right people. Make sure it's people that kind of
Absolutely.
align with your vision and goals of what you want to do as a creator or artist. And yeah,
And maybe keep your finger in the books a little bit.
or at least have a
Or have
good eye
somebody
into
that
it. Yeah,
is going
Somebody
to
you
look
trust.
after you.
Yeah. That's a great pick. I racked my brain looking at movies from this year. I'm like, what's a good business movie from like this year? And Elvis, I just scanned right over. I missed that.
That's a great one.
Well, I didn't have anything from this year either, so I'm going back into the archives a little bit. So the two movies I chose are really on the opposite ends of the spectrum of inspiration. So I'm going to start on the bad end.
All right, sure.
The darker end, and hopefully end on a higher note. But this is a movie that has mystery and suspense and provides an education about financial markets. It does have some bad language. But I'm recommending the 2011 movie Margin Call. Which is really about the 2008 stock market crash and sort of roughly based on Lehman Brothers, which went bankrupt in 2008, takes place over about a 24-hour period where a large investment firm is going through some significant layoffs, and the risk manager, played by Stanley Tucci, is fired, and as he's going out the door, he gives one of his young assistants some information on a project he's working on to look at the balance of accounts, and he gets into it and finds that basically the company is in way over leveraged, and if based on recent volatility in the market, if things swing in a certain direction, basically they are not going to be able to cover the losses that they're about to experience, and everyone stays up all night reviewing it, and the CEO, played by Jeremy Irons, comes in, and I just find the acting in this movie and the cast in this movie was like Stanley Tucci, pre-scandal Kevin Spacey, Zachary Quinto. Demi Moore has a role in it. I mean, it's just to me the acting seems so tight, and for a business movie that's primarily taking place in office situations, it's somewhat riveting. The challenge becomes trying to find some business lessons to take out of this.
How about just don't do this?
Yeah, I was going to say Watch it. It's a great movie. That's it. What the heck were you thinking?
Well, at one point, Jeremy Irons, the CEO, helicopters in the middle of the night and looking impeccable in his suit and everything. He's talking to people and says that there's 3 ways to make money in this business. You can either be first, be smart, or cheat. And we're not going to be proponents of cheating, but just in terms of finding a competitive advantage, being first in the market is good. Coming up with a more innovative, smarter way to do things, that's good. We prefer that you don't cheat. But basically, ultimately, he makes the decision that we're going to dump all these bad securities on an unsuspecting market to save our own hides and basically throw the world into economic chaos, and he would rather be first to do it. So anyway, think about competitive advantage. Some philosophical questions where they're basically sort of grappling with this issue of is it better to save the company by doing something that's not ethically sound, and do we have to destroy the village to save the village? Do we sell our customers stuff that we know is junk? There's some questions there, and it's sort of the other lesson is don't do this. I came away thinking these people are just passing paper around and making tremendous bank. It was rather disheartening. Yeah. So you might want to wait till after Christmas. Wait till a dreary January, February day in the winter to watch this movie.
Today.
It's pretty gloomy out there. But anyway, I find it hard to turn away from watching it. It's sort of like a car wreck that it's hard to watch it. So anyway, good movie.
I've never seen it. I've always wanted to, so I need to.
It's on Netflix.
I need to raise it up on my queue a little bit and check it out soon. So.
I think there's some really good acting in it. Not that I'm the expert on it, but a really great cast.
Good, yeah, sounds like it.
All right, Alan, back to you.
Okay, so I'm going to go completely in the opposite direction on just about everything. Everything we've talked about so far has been a film that's based in reality or had something to do with a real story or real character. This film absolutely is not. All the films we've talked about so far are ones we are generally recommending. This one I'm not. I do not like this movie, but I'll explain why in a minute. And also, I don't think I've done just a dumb comedy as a business lesson. But here we go. We're going to try this out. So it's Christmas time as we record this, and that means that my wife has a tendency to just in the living room while we're just working, doing things around the house, whatever, a Christmas movie will be on one of those channels, TBS or something. It just goes on and on. Well, yesterday, the film du jour was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I saw this film was on in my peripheral for like 1.5 times last night in the 3 hours I was home before I went to bed. And so it kind of seeped into my memory a lot more than I really wanted it to. I don't generally like this movie. I don't think it's really that funny. I think this is Chevy Chase trying way too hard to rekindle his older days in the previous movies. But the plot of this film does lend itself to some interesting business lessons. For those not familiar with the movie, Clark Griswold, hapless father in his family, wife, daughter, and son. They've gone on many misadventures in previous movies. Now they're having the family, extended family over for Christmas. Hijinks ensue. Clark himself is how do you describe him? He's, and this is actually one of the lessons from the movie I take away from it business-wise. He is someone that overextends himself, spreads himself way too thin. If he was the CEO of this family, for example, he has got his fingers in way too many pots and trying to do way too many things, setting way too high expectations for himself and what is going to happen around him to where it's going to come crashing down around him because of that. There's even a scene in this movie, which is one of the only scenes I like in this movie, where he's confronted by his father. His father is even like, Clark, man, you are setting yourself way too high an expectation of how things need to be, and you need to let go and just enjoy the moment. I'm like, okay, that's good. Because it's true. He had this grand idea of lights all over the house and what size Christmas tree they were going to have and all that. And of course, it's all played for fun, but there is something kind of meaningful to kind of pull from that. The other thing, though, there's a whole plot going on where Clark Griswold, he works in a food additive company. He is a food additive developer or something. I don't really know. He is expecting a Christmas bonus from his company. He's been at this company, I think, 16, 17 years. He's gotten one every year, so he's expecting a Christmas bonus this year. This year, he's going to use his bonus. He wants to buy a pool for his house. He's already put a down payment on the pool with the expectation he's going to get his Christmas bonus. So, of course, when the Christmas bonus shows up, it is not actually money this year. It is membership to a Jam of the Month club or something. And it sends Clark into a tailspin, and he's very devastated. Well, of course, you can take the obvious lesson away from this of don't go out and spend money on things that you haven't gotten yet. I mean, that's don't, there's one thing to kind of be hopeful about something, but don't ruin your family's future by putting money into something you can't afford to do. And so there's that simple one. But there's also the other thing. They kidnap, or Uncle Eddie kidnaps the CEO of the company and brings him there to have a reckoning with Clark. But, I found myself, I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm on the side of the CEO, but it's like there was never an explicit promise that, yes, there's going to be a Christmas bonus every year. It's kind of employees, I mean, that's up to them if they're going to go out and spend money before they actually get it. The CEO is not really at fault. However, he did create an expectation, and I think that's understanding that obviously if you've got something, a way you've been doing business for so long and you've brought people along for that many years, you are setting an expectation of kind of how we're going to continue operating. What should he have done? He should have had an all-hands-on meeting with employees and say, hey, look, guys, early on, like in the summer, be like, look, here's the deal. We're not having quite the year we need to have, and sorry, but we're not going to have a bonus, but we're going to really work hard and try to build back up for the next year. That would have been an easy thing to do. You save all the expectations, and you don't have a lot of people disappointed at Christmas time. Should Clark have expected a bonus? No, but the foundation has been laid by this business, and of course they portray the CEO as kind of this wealthy fat cat who doesn't really seem to care about the employees and all that. So that's obviously, if that was the case, as an employee, you could be a little more upset about it. But I do think there's a couple of interesting lessons. Again, not a movie I'm recommending. I don't think it's that great. Of all the Christmas comedies you could have on, this is one I don't think works as well. But there are a couple of interesting lessons to pull from Mr. Griswold
I think that
in this
is
film.
the expectation.
Yeah, it is.
People shouldn't
It's
count
managed.
on it,
But you got to manage
But they
those
are gonna.
expectations.
But if people have been getting it for 10 years, I mean, at some point in their brain, it becomes part of their salary. I'm not saying
that's
not saying it
absolutely
should,
true.
but it does.
It's not technically right.
It's
but-
the expectation.
But
as you
you,
said.
just like we talked about with Pepsi, that you are managing what people expect from you, and you're having to manage that court of public opinion. And that's a great way to just have a real souring relationship within
If
your
you
own
know
business.
it's coming, you should give them warnings.
Give a heads up. Have
good,
an honest
good
conversation.
communication. Good
Yes.
communication.
Yeah,
So.
That works.
That would have helped
everywhere.
save it. So again, there's a couple lessons from it, from a movie I'm not high on, but
It's a good background when you're doing stuff. I mean, I like you. There are a few scenes that I always enjoy, but if you really sit down and try to watch that movie, it's like, do we really need this movie?
Yeah.
It seemed like there's some Saturday Night Live skits in there
Exactly.
for 10 or 15 minutes, and
there's a couple scenes that could be played for laughs. They're kind of funny on their own, but yeah, as a movie, it's just kind of it's a cash grab movie.
Yeah.
Let's do another vacation movie. Let's do it Christmas. People love Christmas movies. All that.
and it's on every Christmas.
All the time.
So I'm sure.
Seriously,
it's on tonight.
Last night we were watching it, and I was kind of complaining about the movie the whole time it was on to my wife, which I'm sure she enjoyed. That's always fun for her. And the minute it ended, the credits ended, it's like, here comes another movie. I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. And it was the exact same movie starting right back again with like no hesitation. So anyway, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. There are some things to learn from it. Have it on in the background, I guess, but that's fine.
There you go. All right, Chris, what do you got?
So ever since I think we've been invited to do this Podtacular, I've always wanted to recommend the film that I'm going to recommend. The problem has been Disney has made it unavailable to release on home video. The only way people saw it was in 2002. It made the film festival circuit, and then they waved their wand and it disappeared. It is now, the film I'm going to recommend is called The Sweat Box, And you can see it by going to archive.org, which is a free internet site that basically archives a lot of things on the internet. And they have a copy of the Sweatbox that is up there. Now, they don't make any money off of it, which is probably legally how they can have it up there. The reason I'm recommending this documentary, Trudy Styler, does that name sound familiar? You know who that is. That is the wife of one musician named Sting. So this documentary follows the making of the movie The Emperor's New Groove, which when Sting signed on was called Kingdom of the Sun. Sting was going to do all the music for Kingdom of the Sun. His wife said, I'll make a documentary of this whole process. You love Disney films. I'll document the inside workings of the animation department. Well, she did. And it includes the moment in the documentary when Sting gets a phone call from the producer who says, yeah, all your music's being dropped from the movie. And this is Sting of the Police. Like, it's a big deal. Now, all that being said, I saw The Emperor's New Groove when it came out. I loved it. It has David Spade, John Goodman. You can actually take some business lessons from that. David Spade plays this aloof leader of this like Incan country, and he, thinks he knows everything. He's all about building himself up, making, changes to the geography, building a big resort just for himself. But he gets to be friends with John Goodman, who kind of shows him like, yeah, you may want to kind of bring yourself down a notch and kind of pay attention to what's going on around you. So that's kind of a business lesson in itself, and who you surround yourself with, because one of his trusted advisors is the one who's actually trying to also screw him over, played by Eartha Kitt in the film. So the film itself, Emperor's New Groove, good movie, you can learn some business lessons. But the Sweatbox, what they're able to capture, what she is able to show inside Pixar and inside Disney, it's pretty amazing. Now, the title, what does that mean? Well, Disney created, at the time when Disney was formed back in like the 30s, they made a screening room that was like a wood box. It was like all wood. There was no air conditioning. And it was like this pressure situation where they would screen a film, and then basically people would tear it apart and say, well, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. So the term they still keep to this day, apparently, they call the sweat boxes when they get the executives together, different producers, and they screen like works in progress of films. And apparently the journey to do The Emperor's New Groove was rough. And they get Trudy Styler is able to capture people like animators, like saying, yeah, it happens today at 10. And, we're really nervous because we've already heard they're going to throw out half the storyboards and all that. So it's there again, I guess both of my picks this year are kind of behind the scenes. But to be able to see the behind the scenes and the makings of a movie, and would the original movie with Sting, with his music, would it have been good? Yeah, maybe. But it's just weird to think that it would have been a completely different movie. So it's called The Sweatbox. I recommend it. You can find it free online at archive.org. And like I said, when I think about business lessons and artists trying to work together, all these different things, like this is great. I've actually seen some people jokingly say, hey, now that Disney Plus has this streaming service, would they put it out? And I don't know, because it's critical, obviously, at times of the organization itself, but it is fascinating. So that's my recommendation.
Excellent.
I've been wanting to watch that. I've only seen like a clip of it at one point when I was searching it out. So
yeah,
it sounds amazing.
It's good. Yeah.
So is Sting's last name Styler? Is it Sting Styler?
So he is Gordon Sumner.
Gordon Sumner.
But then I guess she kept her maiden name or whatever. But yeah, and that's the thing is like, how did this even happen? And it's like, oh, it's his wife doing the documentary. Okay, because the stuff that she's able to get is pretty amazing.
And I suspect Sting has a reaction when he learns this news?
He does.
Okay.
He does. Yeah, yeah.
right.
And he ends up kind of, I think the way he comes to terms with it is like, well, this is not what I signed on for. So if you're totally kind of shifting gears, then okay, I guess I'm glad I'm not part of it anyway. But it's fascinating.
Okay.
The Sweatbox.
Yes.
That's great.
Strange name, but
No.
there you go.
Well, it
Sad to
has
see it.
its own connotation when you say a sweatbox, because you think about it, manufacturing problems
Right.
and issues, or
Yeah.
operations. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of love that they still use that term for like
Oh,
the screening room
right.
to watch the films. Yeah. It's
Right.
interesting.
It seems appropriate.
It does.
So-
It does. Yeah.
All right, Gary, what say you?
gosh, I've got three. One is I haven't scene.
You might want to save 2 for next year.
I know, that's exactly what I mean. So,
You got a year to watch that one.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
What Women Want.
That's the Mel Gibson. Helen Hunt. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Another Mrs. Muller.
Well,
Maybe we should bring her on next year.
That's right.
so I have not seen this movie. What's the lesson?
Well, I guess one is the woman, very successful, talented woman.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson is there, and basically he's competing with her and goes out of his way, has a plan to
Okay.
basically sabotage her. I guess have you seen it?
I've not seen the whole. I'm aware of it, but I'm not really seeing it.
Have you seen it, Chris?
I have seen it. Long time ago, but I have seen it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so.
But I thought
it's a little
some
sketchy.
magical thing happens to him, and he can think like a woman or something
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
I guess that's the.
We can hear what
He
they're
can hear
thinking.
their
You can
thoughts.
hear.
Yeah.
Their thoughts. Yeah.
And he
because
uses
Mel
it against
Gibson's
her.
known to be a sensitive person.
No, yes. In every part of his life.
Yeah. Really.
And so, yeah, that's the trick. But basically, he's undermining Helen Hunt, who is at the end. Well, I guess I can't tell you what happens.
I'm betting there's a happy ending
There's
out
a
there
very happy
somewhere.
ending because you know the Mullers have to have a happy ending.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Turns into a romantic.
Okay. So is the lesson we should learn to think like women?
Well, I think that's true.
It's kind of
Okay.
automatic anyway. Yeah.
That's a given. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that good wins out over evil.
Okay.
It's always a good business.
But it's
lesson.
in a business sense. You know.
What they're in some sort of office setting too. Is that some
yes.
sort of business or
Yeah.
marketing business or
Martin, and she's very talented and she deserves to move up through the organization and get where she gets to.
But he's exploiting it because
yes, and
got
he's
this power.
trying to
Yeah.
stop because he'd like to be in that position.
Yeah.
Right.
If she wasn't there, he thinks he'd be in that position. Is
I
that
see.
fair? Am I saying it right?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So a little corporate intrigue, a little competitiveness, but okay. But it ends
And then a little
well.
romance.
A little romance, but it ends well.
Yeah, it ends well.
I'm a bigger fan of Helen Hunt than Mel Gibson. I
Yeah,
like
well,
Helen Hunt.
I am
like
too.
Helen Hunt, yeah.
It's just good.
Okay, that's good. No, I've actually, I've never seen it, but that may be one that shows up on my list. at some point, yeah.
It's a good
Sounds like a good family movie.
you took the words out of my mouth. It's a good
Okay.
family.
Good.
Yeah, can we watch that one with the kids?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Good.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
All right.
Like it.
All right. This one you can watch with the kids as well. This is high on the inspiration scale. It's a sports movie, which I enjoy, pride, underdog story. Most of all, coming together as a team.
Okay.
So my inspirational movie is Miracle, the story of the U.S. hockey team.
Love it.
Winning the gold medal in 1980, starring Kurt Russell, who plays Herb Brooks. And I was never that big a Kurt Russell fan. It's fine, but I just he made a believer out of me in this particular movie, in this particular role as Herb Brooks, and he puts together a team of amateurs. And Gary, I know, knows the story.
Yes,
Chris and Alan are a
absolutely.
little younger than us. But I assume most people are sort of familiar with the story, and we probably watched
it.
the game on videotape.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Because that's how it was done at that point in time. It wasn't live, and we didn't have internet to know who won. So I think they delayed it a little bit, but they put together this back in the 1980s. The United
Can I tell you I'm
States.
getting chill bumps when you're talking about
The
it? 'Cause I
United
can
States did
remember-
not allow professionals to participate in the Olympics, while other countries did, and the Soviet Union by far had the best hockey team and were expected to win. And we put together this mishmash of college players from different places, primarily from Minnesota and from Boston. But they were competing against each other the whole time in college, and he had to put this team together. And ultimately, they go on this wild run to win the gold medal. Spoiler alert. There.
I think you're okay with that. So
Yeah,
I
yes.
think it's okay.
Other than Kurt Russell and the fellow that plays the assistant coach, Craig Patrick, whose name I would not know if I hadn't gone and looked it up, Noah Emmerich. who
yeah,
you
sure.
guys probably know.
Yep.
And you would know if you saw him.
Yeah.
He was in The Americans, which is one of my favorite series
Yes,
of all time.
very, very good.
But he's in it. And the rest of them, there might be some actors that Chris and Alan know, but really, the guys playing the team, I don't really know who they are.
Yeah.
And I think the acting is good, but the story is magical. And as far as lessons go, I think the biggest lesson is building a team. And at one point, Herb Brooks says, I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right ones, which reminded me, I don't know if you've ever read the Jim Collins book, Good to Great, and he talks about getting the right people on the bus and
In
everything.
the right seats.
So to me, it was a really, how do you go about building a seamless team? And I think he recognizes that he's putting a team together that doesn't have the most talent out there in relation to some of these other European teams and the Soviet team, and he sort of institutes a hybrid of different types of play, and so a little out of the box thinking, and ultimately just a leadership story. If I recommend watching this movie. It's sort of it'll give you goosebumps.
It's a great movie.
Great movie.
And the fact that it's true is, it looks like a Disney movie.
But if you don't have time to watch the movie, just go to YouTube and Google Miracle, pregame speech or something, and listen to Kurt Russell do his Herb Brooks, where he talks about great moments come from great opportunities, and tonight we skate with them, and we're going to shut them down, and it'll get you going. You want to run through that door and go kick some butt.
I love inspirational sport movies. I do. It's one of my favorite genres of film, just to kind of always have on, and just I can watch it any time of the day. I've never seen Miracle. I don't know why, but that just, I knew it would fit right in that genre. I need to catch up on that.
It is great.
My only exposure is I used to, back in college, I worked for Disney I would be assigned to go to movie theaters in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, engage audience reactions to trailers. That's what I had to do, and report them back in to the marketing at Disney, like how people are responding to their trailers, and even evaluating the in-theater displays and movie posters and stand-ups, and are they having them
That's
out
a
right?
cool job.
It was a very cool job, and Miracle is one of the films I had to go and sit in, and normally I would try to just sit and watch the movie after I'm done listening to the trailers, but for whatever reason, Miracle I didn't get to see. I got to remedy that sometime.
I would recommend that one.
And I'm trying not to be offended by Chris's choice, being a former Disney employee, I say that it was 9 months. I think I did this job for Disney. So
No, you can watch
my
this.
allegiance is gone.
You can watch this one with the family, and you'll want to hug everybody at the end. So it's all good.
Really standing up, cheering.
Yes,
Nice.
Very good. All right.
Back in a simpler time. So
Indeed.
Let's have a nice mixture of films. Is that all the recommendations we got?
I think that's what we got there. So
Gary's got a couple in the pocket. He can
That's right. I'm excited.
in the future. Yeah. Good.
Well, and he's got Mrs. Muller to back him up. So it's all good.
That's right.
This is a research department over
That's
there.
exactly
All
right.
right. Well, so we've got Pepsi, Where's My Jet, Christmas Vacation from Alan, which take Christmas Vacation. You take at your own risk. You're going to see it, so
It's going to find you,
Yes.
and it will be playing on a TV somewhere near you. Yeah.
Chris has recommended Light and Magic, which you can see on Disney Plus, and The Sweat Box, which you can see on archive.org. Gary recommends Elvis and What Women Want.
Now, before you go on, Mrs. Muller said, I don't really know what women want. I just want
Disclaimer.
you to go on record for that.
Yes.
Mrs. Muller's getting a lot of play today. So give her a royalty check for this. All right, we've got, and I'm recommending, on the different ends of the spectrum, Margin Call and Miracle. So those are some movies that you can be checking out with the family. I want to thank you guys, but we also, before we go, we you guys up for a little quick lightning round that we play?
Sure. Yeah.
Today's lightning round is sponsored by Ned Ryerson Insurance. Whole life, auto, flood. Can't have enough insurance? Stay safe with Ned Ryerson. You can check it out on the internet. So we've got some quick questions for
Zing.
for Alan and Chris. Quick, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Just quick questions, quick answers. What is your biggest pet peeve?
I've got one.
I've got one.
Okay, my biggest pet peeve is when you're in a public space and somebody is playing either music or a movie or a game on loud volume in a public space like a restaurant or something like that. So,
Okay.
not using headphones, just playing it out loud.
Can they talk on the phone, or is it just like
Talking's okay because I understand that's you have to talk if you're on the phone. But playing a movie, playing music, especially like kids playing games, like on little devices in a restaurant or a public space. Ooh, I do not like that.
Okay, Chris?
So, ideas that will be individuals who shoot down ideas without giving what they think. Like they don't, they're just like, oh, I don't like it. Like, no, but why? Like what, work with me on fun. And they're just like, nope. And I'm like, oh, it's such a missed opportunity to make something better. Like you don't like fun, but why don't you? And so just,
Not open-minded.
yes, I guess
Okay.
when discussing ideas, that's a pet peeve. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, very broad one, but this is for you guys. Do you? And it might be hard for you to answer. Do you have a favorite actor or actress? It's, you love all your children, right? So it's hard to pick one. But is there one that over time has just stood out to you?
Wow.
The wheels are grinding here.
That is
Yeah.
a tough one.
That's a tough one for them.
He's not been in enough stuff recently, and I admit the reason I'm fond of him because of his involvement in the Star Wars movies. But I really like Ewan McGregor. I like him a lot. He's not in enough now these days. How about you, Alan? Do you have?
It changes all the time, but actually it's kind of funny because it's also related to Star Wars. Okay. Oscar Isaac as a
yeah,
newer actor. I mean,
yeah.
granted, he's only been the last 6 or 7 years kind of prominent, but right now he's the one that if he's in something, I'm going to try to check it out.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I was thinking, Paul Newman or something like
No,
that.
I mean, if I
or-
wanted to go like classic, I mean, Robert Redford's always been one of my favorites. I mean, I like just about everything he does as well. So
Okay.
I tend to think more in recent years, but
Okay.
if I had to go longer term, like over the course of cinema, yeah, probably Redford or Newman. I mean, those two, I could watch them in
Butch
anything.
Cassidy and Sundance Kid is
so
like
good.
one of my favorites.
One of my
If not my
favorites.
favorite.
Yes.
So
Kate Blanchett on the female side because
Yeah.
she's a really solid actress, and she seems, I guess, to her advantage, she gets to pick what role she does and doesn't do. So therefore, when she does decide to do a role, it's usually going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one too for the actors. Yeah.
do you have a favorite holiday dessert?
Holiday dessert.
Anything but fruitcake. That's my answer.
Holiday dessert. I mean, I got a lot of favorite desserts. I'm just trying to think which one falls under a holiday. No, I don't have a favorite holiday
While you're
dessert.
thinking, you talk about fruitcakes. That's hard to believe. We used to do that in business from a businessman. We take that to people.
Oh, yeah.
Send a
It's horrible.
fruitcake?
Why?
Yeah. Why did we do
Why'd you
that?
do that?
All right. Well, how about a favorite holiday special TV show? Do you have I don't think it's going to be Christmas Vacation, but is there a special show, whether it be
Well, there's
TV or a movie that
It's
you
a
just
movie.
need to see at the holiday time?
Yes.
Get you in the spirit.
My favorite Christmas movie is Scrooged with Bill Murray. That is one I can watch all the time, and it gets me weepy at the end every single time. It always does it. And so, yes, I love that movie.
Fair enough. Mine's a tie. Nightmare Before Christmas and then Elf. Those are two that I. And yes, I basically don't need to actually watch them because I can just play them in my mind because I know all the lines and everything. But those are both
So
really good.
I think you could use Elf or Scrooge to find some business lessons as well.
Oh, Scrooged, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I should have. That should be a choice. I can't believe that hasn't been a choice up to
Okay,
now.
well,
so.
people, you can go watch those movies. You're probably gonna stumble
Scrooge is
into them
great.
sometime in the next few weeks.
Very true.
All right, last question. Your preference: lager, IPA, ale, or something else?
Absolutely anything but IPA.
Not an IPA guy.
No, sir.
Okay, but
So
you're
lager. I like lager. Lager's
Okay.
good, yeah.
I'm not a beer guy. So I would say something else. Give me a glass of whiskey or a glass of wine.
Okay.
I can do that. I'm not a beer guy.
Okay.
So
Well,
just
something,
I fight
something else is okay.
my entire family is beer connoisseurs except me. So
Okay,
I
well,
just don't do it.
I'd like to know your choices on that question.
I do not like IPAs as well. I mean, I'll choke.
You and I are the-
I will
you
choke
and I
one
are-
down on occasion, but I would much prefer. I'm more of a lager type guy. Although one of the things that happened during COVID is I will say that I was starting to feel a bit bloated from the beer, so I did get into the bourbon. You know, so I
That's me.
anyway. So
Beer just always
Something more than we needed to know.
Gary, do you have a preference?
Coca-Cola.
Okay,
Yeah,
not
that works.
Pepsi.
I'll drink Pepsi, but I'm a Coke guy.
That's what
And
I
I always have to be careful because I
What's
say
that
I'm addicted.
documentary? You may feel differently.
Okay.
There you go.
No jet rides for you, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, fellas. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We always
Absolutely.
wind up our podcast with giving a shout out to small businesses. Chris, I know that you've got one that you wanted to share.
I do. And keeping with, I think, a tradition in past years, I try to do a food one because I know Gary likes food. So mine is a small business that's actually in downtown Hickory. They are a vegan restaurant, and they're relatively new. The name of the restaurant is Plant-Based Boss because they feel like if you eat plant-based, you can be the boss of your health and all these other things. What I really like about their food is they have things like Jamaican jerk chicken or smokehouse deli sandwiches. And if you're trying to be healthy, you're like, oh, I can't have pork. Or I can't. I'm like, no, it's vegan. So it is not that. It's basically a substitute, but it tastes amazing. And they also do like peanut butter, chocolate, banana smoothies and all these other kind of smoothie stuff that are really, really, really good. So that's my small business. If you've never had vegan food, go there and try it because just the sauces or the way they make stuff, I don't know, man. Tastes really good. So you can
Very
be
cool.
eating healthier without feeling like, oh, this is bland. This doesn't have any taste. So it's kind of cool. So
Okay.
Plant-based boss.
All right.
That is directly across from the Carolina Theater.
It
in downtown
is.
Hickory,
This is
right?
true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Alan, you got one to share with us?
Not as good, but no, that was a really good one. I am in my spare time, the little bit I have, I get into home automation technology. So how to automate things in my home, lights and outlets and motion detectors and other things to kind of just automate everything in my home. I want it to be when I walk in the house, the lights come on at the right time and things turn on with my voice. And anyway, it's something my brother and I are both really big into and do a podcast on as well. There's a company that he turned me on to that I've been buying some products from. They're relatively small in the marketplace. Granted, they're probably bigger than the Plant-Based Boss company, but they do make a lot of products. But the reason I want to recommend them, they're called Wyze, which is WYZE. So Wyze.com. They make an assortment of products for your home, like home technology. The reason I want to recommend them is their prices are what I would expect these items should be selling for. Unlike most other companies I see where there seems to be a real premium put on all of these are selling products that are very affordable and they make sense for most homes where I think the pricing has been out of reach for a lot of people to invest a lot of money in this kind of home technology. We're talking like little cameras, like little security cameras you can put in your house and pull up on your phone and see. They've got light bulbs. The whole light bulbs you can get, the smart light bulbs. They're so expensive at places you go. And here, they're like maybe $18, $16, $18. I mean, which is to me a lot more reasonable and makes sense. And the quality's good. I mean, it's good quality. So I think it's just a company that's tapped into saying, hey, look, there's a real need. People want to be doing this kind of stuff. They need this kind of gear. But can we make it affordable and not skimp on quality if we can do it? And they seem to be doing that because their quality has been, in my experience, really good. I've enjoyed all the products I've gotten for the most part, except one exception, Wyze. And I've already written them about this. This is kind of a funny story. I'll make it quick, but they do sell a digital scale, like a weight scale, which is great. You put in some batteries, you sit on your floor, you go stand on it. It records your weight and it puts it in your phone. So now I have a track of how I'm doing. I over the course of like 9 months or 6 or 9 months, I had one of these and I was watching as my weight was trimming down a little bit. I'm like, this is great. I'm really kind of working on getting my weight down. I really wanted to be at a certain point, and it looks like the scale's showing me I'm getting there. So excited. My family's using it too, and they're all really happy with the results. Well, then my mother-in-law walks in one day and she decides to stand on it. And as soon as she gets off, she's like, your scale's wrong. I'm like, no, it's not. She's like, no, it is. And sure enough, I went and put some actual weights on it, and yeah, it's off. Oh. It is off like a good 10 pounds. Oh, it had gotten progressively worse over time off.
Oh, man.
So other than that product.
So were you 10 pounds lighter, Alan? Or
no, I was 10 pounds heavier.
Okay,
so
that's too bad.
But you're still making progress.
Too bad.
Actually, I think it was getting worse over time, so I don't think I made any progress at all. So they did swap it out. They fixed it. It's good. And of course, the new one that came in the first time I stepped on it, I'm like, yep, that's back where I was a year ago. So I'm
Well,
good
at
to
least
see.
it's a good customer service.
No. Look, their products come out quick.
Okay.
I bought some night lights, some really great little
right.
remote controlled night lights to put up on a stairwell. I got them in 2 days. They're super easy to set up. I got them installed like in 10 minutes. And they work great. They look great. And it costs like, I think I spent $20 on a series of 6 night lights going up and down my staircase that are remote controlled. And so I'm a fan. I know my brother turned me on to it because he buys a lot of stuff from them.
Oh.
But it's just nice to see a company that's tapping into something that is a very trendy product right now, but doing it in a very cost-effective way and passing that on to the consumers. I'm a big fan of. So,
all right. Yeah. And you mentioned that you and your brother have a podcast where you discuss some of this. So shameless plug, Brothers in Tech.
Yep.
People can find that on the Mesh podcast network as well as Apple, Spotify, wherever.
All over the place. My brother and I just get together and talk home and family technology every week and ideas and recommendations and things we're doing in our own homes that we think are helpful to people. So, thanks for the plug.
Yeah, I listen to it with my wife, and we're piddling around and hear pieces of it every now and then.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's good. Well, I'll make sure I do a shout out to you.
We have Christmas Vacation on your podcast. A lot of
all those things
in our house.
So great, high quality products going on in your house. I see. So that's good.
All right, Gary, what do you got to share today?
Well, Chris already previewed.
Food,
Sweets. Charleston chocolate moonshine.
Ooh.
Charleston chocolate.
We love
moonshine.
Charleston.
Wow.
Love chocolate. I can't drink moonshine, but it's about candy.
Sure.
Fudge and truffles. It's right by the market downtown. And of course, I thought it was great. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Muller gets another plug. She said, that looks great for the podcast. I said, it was a great name. Mm-hmm. And it actually started 30 years ago in Pittsburgh, but
Oh, wow.
folks, and I think it's called, Goodies Candy. Well, the company started up something similar in Charleston called the Charleston Chocolate Moonshine. And it's basically it's a candy store.
Sure.
Gotcha.
That sounds great, though.
It does.
It's right there kind of in the downtown
if you're
on the
walking by
marketplace.
the market, T-Bones.
Yeah, sure.
It's 3 or 4 doors up.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Next time I'm down there,
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
We saw it over Thanksgiving.
Is there any moonshine available?
I thought so.
All right. Good to know. All right. My shout out is to a company that's called Apolla, Apolla. Started by 2 best friends, Casey Jones and Brianne Zabrowski. They were involved in the dance world and saw the injuries that occur to people's feet in the dance world. So they actually came up with hosiery products, socks that had graduated compression to provide support to the ankle and the arch to help prevent some of those injuries. And they actually worked a little bit with our Manufacturing Solutions Center on some of their product development. And
cool.
in April of this year, they were
Good
on
plug.
Shark Tank
wow.
and got a deal with Gary's friend Lori Grenier for $300,000 to help expand their business.
Fantastic.
So if you go to Apolla, Apolla performance.com, you can learn about them and shout out to them, and you can purchase some of their products online if you're interested in that. So
Very cool.
So check it out.
That's great. I'm always in the market for some good socks.
If you have a suggestion for our small business of the month, you can send them to us at exchange@themesh.tv. We'd love to hear from you. We want to thank Chris Frye and Alan Jackson for joining us today and sharing their movie selections. And where can folks find out more about Foot Candles?
So footcandle.org is our website. Don't go to footcandle.com. I don't know where that will take you, but could be treacherous.
It's Foot Candles with an S, I believe.
No. Footcandle. Footcandle.org.
Okay.
And that's where you can see our film screenings that we have coming up each month. And then a button to our film festival that the site will be, it'll be updated for the 2023 festival probably in the spring. So, but yeah, we'll be promoting it there for sure. But footcandle.org points you everywhere.
Sounds good. We also want to thank our friends at the Mesh Podcast Network. You can see a lot of, if you go to the mesh.net, you can...
Actually, .tv.
.tv, I'm sorry, mesh.tv. You can see the whole stable of podcasts that you can listen to through the Mesh. So be checking that out. And just want to wish everybody happy holidays. Gary, happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to Mrs. Muller.
Well, thank you. Happy holidays to everybody.
Our honorary fifth member of the
That's
podcast.
right.
There you go.
Mrs.
She's
Muller.
going to have her listen. You'll have to tell her that she got credit a lot
I'm
today.
going to say this because she was driving today's podcast. Anyway, everybody, happy holidays, and we'll look forward to talking to you next month.
I'm trying to learn more about women.
Good luck.